Well, good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to the very special edition of Comms Surgery, which is our PIO designation. I'm really excited about this. My name's Christine Townsend. For those of you who don't know me, I'm the founder of PIO Toolkit. I'm in Austin, Texas. And the reason I am excited about this Comms Surgery particularly is because I'm very passionate about the professionalisation of comms pros, making sure that everyone gets the support and recognition that they deserve. This is a great way to do that. Now, I'm not going to be talking about it because I'm not the one that's done the most amazing work around it, but I've got some people that have, and the work that has gone into it is phenomenal. So I encourage you to ask the questions that you have, put them in the chat below. We are recording this. We will make sure it's available online, and also we will pull out all the questions from the session, make sure they're available on our webpage as well. So if you miss anything, or if there aren't any questions that get answered in this session, we'll make sure they are pulled together and we start building out an FAQ, because it's really useful. And this will be the first of a number of webinars about this subject, hopefully. So as I say, please ask your questions. So I am really pleased to have with me Ashley McDonald, Mike Higgins, and Brian Goss. Now I'm going to ask Ashley to introduce herself. Okay, Ashley, would you like to go ahead and introduce yourself?
Sure, and I apologize for the technical difficulties that I'm having on my end. Wish I could be on camera for everybody, but it's a terrible angle because I'm on my phone. So it's very unfortunate, but it actually may be fortunate for you all. I don't know, depending upon how you look at it. But I, as Christine said, am Ashley McDonald. I spent 15 and a half years in the public sector, a great portion of that as a public information officer, and have recently transitioned into the private sector in a PR role. I am still dabbling in the public information officer realm, though, for the Tennessee Fire Chiefs Association. I serve as their mutual aid PIO, and then also serve as a commissioner on the Commission for Professional Credentialing through CPSE as the Public Information Officer representative. And now I'll let Mike introduce himself.
Yeah, I'm Mike Higgins. I spent about 37 years in the fire service and started working with CPSE back last March. I'm the credentialing program manager and very happy to be here. We'll hopefully answer a lot of questions. And if anybody, I think this program that Ashley and Christine, when they were on the technical working group, did a phenomenal job, and Brian as well. So looking forward to it.
Thank you, Mike. Brian, would you like to introduce yourself? We're glad to have you here as well.
Yeah, my name is Brian Goss. I'm the fire chief in the Brentwood, Tennessee Fire Department, just south of Nashville. And I was brought into this process by Ashley as part of the technical working group. Ended up working on eligibility for the designation. And my experience with CPSE and the Commission on Professional Credentialing goes back to 2005. We have incorporated credentialing at every level within our organization. And I'm just a huge proponent of professional development, of third-party review and assessment, and happy to be here.
Thank you, Brian. Now, I just want to briefly touch on my involvement in this, which was very small, but as you all know, I am not from the US, but I wanted to make sure that there was an international element to this, because when I came from the UK, all the experience, some 20 years I had as a comms person in public safety and government didn't really count for anything when I was starting to apply for jobs, which is why I didn't get any, and which is why I started PIO Toolkit. So everything worked out well in the end, but that made me think there will be people that have a great amount of experience that come from other countries and also want to go to other countries with their skills. So I wanted to give some advice on how that those skills could be transferable and recognised here. But enough about me. We will talk about the aspect of, if you're not yet ready to go through the process, but we're going to move on to that later. But I'd just like Ashley to sort of explain how the designation came about, please.
Yes, thank you, Christine. So back in 2020, if anybody can remember that time period, because nothing significant really happened back then, um, we actually started some PIO support phone calls. Tom Olshansky, I'm not sure if he's on this webinar. I saw that he had said that he was going to attend, but he actually facilitated that through FEMA. So the master PIOs, the advanced PIOs, we would all get together once a week and just basically talk about the challenges that we all were experiencing during 2020. And you could see it on a lot of the faces. They were real, if they weren't already, they were very close to burnout. There were a lot of departments that were actually letting their PIO position go because they figured that it was an expense that at that time they didn't have to, that they didn't need to incur. So there was an issue there with the way that in some agencies the PIO position was valued. And you could also see that these PIOs were starting to take that on personally. And so the conversation then began, what can we do to bring value not only to the agency heads to show the value of this position and the hard work and the training and education and experience that goes into that, but what can we do to boost our spirits as PIOs as well and give us that intrinsic benefit? And so we started talking about the credentialing, and we went about this several different ways, in the brainstorming phases, but ultimately we started a focus group that had about 10 people, and they were from varying disciplines and backgrounds and experiences. And I sort of led it because I was actually serving in my second term as president of National Information Officers Association at the time. And we tossed around the ideas of maybe, NIOA actually creating the criteria and hosting the credential, but that would have just been a lot of legwork. And we talk a lot in public safety and in government about let's don't reinvent the wheel if something's working, why, go back to the drawing board. And so we talked about the UAB, who hosts the APR, which is for PR professionals. We talked about just a few other programs, but then I started thinking, okay, the Center for Public Safety Excellence. I had experience with the organization through our fire department getting accredited or going through the accreditation process, but also knew that Chief Goss, as he mentioned, he was our Tennessee Consortium president at the time, or chairperson. And I reached out to him and I said, hey, this is what we've got going on. This is what we'd like to do. Do you think that CPSC would be interested in hosting the PIO designation? And he said, quite honestly, I'm not sure. They haven't really, added any designations like in nearly a decade. And also it's, they've historically been, they've historically represented fire service and emergency services. But he connected me with the right people, and Debbie Sabatka, who is their chief operating officer, and then also at the time, Rick Mason, who was over their CPC program. That's the Commission on Professional Credentialing. I reached out to them and had an initial phone call, and they were interested. And they said, this sounds good, but what we need you to do is create a proposal. And here are the components that you need. We want to know what the imaginative market is, or the imaginable market, and the achievable market. So we want to know, in theory, how many people would be interested in this. And then, we want to find out, more accurately, how many right now are interested in that. We also want to pinpoint the national standards that we could write the technical competencies to. So the focus group, we were excited because now we had an opportunity. We may finally get somewhere with this. And so we worked really, really hard and diligently. The team worked so hard to get those items together. We created a survey. It went out to various communicator groups and the master PIO groups, advanced PIO groups. Some of you on the call may have even participated in that back in 2020. And if you did, we appreciate that. But we had almost 800 participants in that survey, and a resounding 590 something of them said, yes, if this does come to fruition, please contact me because I'm very interested. So we had that to take back to them. We had letters of support, even though we weren't asked to do that. We had a lot of letters of support. National Information Officers Association, the Florida Association of PIOs. There were some large municipality groups that also supported that. And so we were just very fortunate in that. We sent out that proposal, and when it was finally completed, we sent that out in October of 2020. And with the way that COVID sort of shut everything down, the Center for Public Safety Excellence Commission wasn't meeting in person, but they chose to take this proposal to their first in-person meeting, which occurred in 2021. And they passed it unanimously. It went then to the board of directors, and they also passed it unanimously in December of 2021. And we began the program development work in early 2022. So that's where you see Christine come in the picture. Mike took over for Rick Mason, took over in that position. Rick retired. And then I believe Rich Merrill may also be on the call. He was the program manager. And we had a good core group of people that were really working hard to get this to come to fruition, to launch it in November of 2022.
That's amazing. Thank you. And you make it sound so easy. There was a lot of work that went into it. I know that for sure. And we've already had a great question, but I sort of want to thank you, Ashley, for giving us that really good background. Perhaps, Mike, if you could talk about what is credentialing and why is it important? Because I think when you explain that, I can go into a question from John.
Sure. So the credentialing program is basically an individual sends in information about their knowledge, skills, and abilities, the roles they've played, their education, professional development. It also puts people into that role of having the recognition of being a designated individual. There, to my knowledge, and I think it's Ashley can attest to this, there's no other professional designation for a public information officer. And to have this credential for those individuals who provide such a vital role in every aspect of what we do in the world today. It's not a fire specific or firefighter, EMS, public safety process. It is everyone. We've designated individuals from general governments. We've designated from private sector, people who are contractors. So, it's out there. I believe we have 23 designees at this point, and probably, I would say 80% of them are not in the fire service. So that just goes to show you that it is valuable for those individuals to go through the process. So really, the reason why you look at it, it's a quality assurance program for yourself. It promotes the accountability and continuous improvement of what you do. It's a professional development model. You can take all of your information you have, and where you see yourself fall short in, that's where you add a little more areas of taking more different classes or just different things like that. It can also help with career advancement. If people look at your credentials when you're looking for a job, and to have a professional designation, that is something that is valuable, that plays a good role. So really, what we're looking at is providing individuals with the opportunities for personal and professional growth. So I think that's really what's credentialing and why it's important.
That's fantastic. Thank you, Mike. And I think it's really important to you talk about that point if it isn't just public safety PIOs. And I think there is a bit of a culture of, other PIOs in different areas feeling a bit left in the cold when it comes to training opportunities and career progression. And, if we're really taking on the real benefits of multi-agency working. We should all be on a level playing field. And I know that I've gone into different roles that aren't public safety and just not had a clue what I'm doing. And having that framework for what do I need next, it's that guidance. It really helps you kind of commit to progression, like you say. And I think everyone should have that opportunity because, there's a whole wealth of evidence that shows that when it comes to an emergency, it's not just police, fire, that deal with it. We're looking at schools, we're looking at healthcare, we're looking at water, and for everyone. So this is really, really important. And so on that, we've touched on who's eligible, but Ashley, I'd like you to broaden out on that if you can, and then we will get to John's question around it.
Right. So it's, as Mike sort of alluded to, it's any full or part-time or even contracted public information officer in government and quasi-government areas, but also can be private sectors, such as, let's say, like hospital. I love using the example of Disney World has their own PIO, and so the PIO of Disney World could also apply for this, and we hope that they do. That's a direct request in this webinar for them to do that, so I can say, hey, we even have the PIO from Disney. But so the great thing about this, the unique thing about this, is that civilians can now apply, and that it's multidiscipline. It's not just tailored to, like they said, specifically public safety. And I think we still have some work to do as far as the awareness goes, the awareness piece, because when people see that name, Center for Public Safety Excellence, that tends to make them think that it's limited to just that discipline, and it's not. There are two, I'll sort of touch on this, and then if either Chief Goss or Mike want to chime in, there are two different pathways to eligibility. And I think this may also answer John's question that he asked. I'm just going to read it real quick so everybody sort of has that perspective. But does FEMA EMI recognize the CPSE, and where does it fit within the various PIO classes and levels of instructions? So it's kind of the opposite, John. We looked at all of these courses that are currently being offered through FEMA, their PIO sort of academy. Then we also looked at FBI LEDA, and there's some other ones that we're looking at pretty heavily. There's a Defense School of Information Communication School. There's also a pretty brand new one that was actually being created simultaneously as we were developing this program, but that's through the University of Tennessee. But those are sort of how we created our eligibility criteria. There are two different pathways, and one of them is a category A, which is more like you're combining your experience, your level of education, your, whether or not you've completed the Master PIO program through either FBI LEDA or FEMA or both. And then there's also the category B, which you still have to, you still have to check off some of those boxes, but also you write to technical competencies. So there are a couple of different ways, and we'll give you a pathway to get to the application so you can pull it up and look at the specifics, because I don't know if we'll have time to talk about that on the call. But it really is, if you are going to be a career PIO, for sure this is something that you want to pursue. Or if you have been a career PIO and you're thinking, man, I really, would like to apply for this, because this really does this is a third party, certification that I have achieved all of these things in my career. So really, John, the certificate is only a component of the credential. So whether that's the Master PIO or any of the other courses that are directly related to the position, it's just one component, because then you also have your professional affiliations. You have, if you're going category B, to write to those technical competencies. You talk about your community outreach, your community, community, help me out here, Mike.
Involvement.
Involvement, yes, thank you. And then, you have to also write your developmental goals. So really those certifications just serve as like one piece of the credentialing puzzle. And then the credential is that third party verification that you have achieved all of those things.
Thanks, Ashley. Actually, Jodie's Donaldson has touched on what you just mentioned around the development goals. Can you explain a little more, or maybe Mike or Brian, around what you're looking for in development goals section?
Yeah, I'm going to let Mike or Brian take that one.
Go ahead, Brian. You're a peer reviewer, so you know a lot about having to do that. So
Does it need development goals?
yes.
Yeah, that's basically a documentation of how you anticipate to continue to further your career. One of the prime components of credentialing, which makes it different than most certificates, is that it's an ongoing process. You have to redesignate every 3 years. So once you've achieved designation through a combination of your experience, your training, your education, and demonstrating a credible background in the area of PIO or whatever designation you're going for, you have to continue that process. And the goals that you develop outline how you plan to do that, and how they relate to the position of PIO, to the greater public safety or communication world. And it kind of gives you a template for moving forward as you continue to plan your ongoing professional development and career advancement.
That's great. Thank you.
So really, for the PIO, there are 3 developmental goals. One is accountability, the other is response policies, and the other is public education. So these components were based off of the firefighter life safety initiatives. But as we were going through this process, we said, look, most of these people are not going to be firefighters or EMS people or whatever. So they're not going to really understand what that specifically means. So in the application, we have the link to those initiatives, plus we have several other links that apply to specifically PIO in those areas. So you just don't have to go off the cuff and say, I don't really know what they're talking about. So really that process, like Brian said, it's about what are you going to do in accountability to move the profession forward, and the other 2 as well. So that's just, I just want to put it out there how it actually transpired and what those actually were. There's 3 of them. So, and as far as writing to them, a couple of paragraphs is plenty, but if you want to do a lot, then you can write more. And it's all about you have to write a whole lot in the developmental goals, because it's about what you're going to do.
Thank you, everyone. We've had a couple of people ask a similar question, so around what you're doing to let people know about all of this that aren't PIOs, so the people that would support PIOs or need to have a greater awareness of this, because if police chiefs or emergency managers don't know about it, it kind of doesn't have any teeth, as it were. So what's being done to raise awareness outside of the PIO world?
So I'll just take like a portion of that, and then if Mike or anybody else wants to expand on it. So within the fire service, it's pretty much the Center for Public Safety Excellence is pretty well known within the fire service itself. But outside of that, yes, we do still have some awareness to complete. I think, because this is so new and it's the first time that CPSC has expanded its horizons beyond that that beyond the fire department and emergency services, that, there's also some, some creative ways that we have to get this to the masses. Something that I can say that we're doing is like what we're doing right now. So, Christine mentioned that we're going to have multiple webinars that, kind of are on this track. And I envision that one of them could even be, maybe you invite your leadership to an informational meeting so that they can find out, what the value of this is, what this exactly means. We also, Christine and CPC have partnered up to have some postcards at different conferences and things. And yes, a lot of those will be communicator conferences, but also I can envision us, maybe going to like your city manager and county manager, those types of conferences, and through National Information Officers Association also has touch points with some of the other communicator groups that are more specific to law enforcement and other disciplines. And so I think there could be like a lot of cross education here in various platforms. And you know what? We are very open to hearing any suggestions that you all might have for us to reach out to your leadership.
Yeah, and I'll follow up on that. Based off of the initial offering when Ashley and her group were petitioning to get the designation, I think it was over 800 individuals they surveyed. And then I think it probably a couple months ago, if some of you may be on the call, that I went down the list, took the ones that said they were interested in the designation, and sent the information out. And if they wanted to know more about it, here's the link to be able to download the application. If you have questions, just email, that type of thing. So that was a broad group. It was close to 600 people that we sent it to. So hopefully that reached quite a few folks. And so, yeah, there are other ways to do it. And I would, like Ashley said, I will take any suggestion to go forward to try to get the information out. Yes.
And honestly, if it's something, I'm sorry, Christine, I didn't mean to interrupt you, but if it's something that you personally are having, a hard time reaching leadership, I mean, I don't see that it's beyond our, that we wouldn't actually, contact your leadership or be on either a Zoom call with them, with you, and sort of present the CPC model, or to even write some type of informative letter. I mean, I think, if you personally are having an issue with conveying how this is important, we are willing to help any way we can.
And I think too, there is another option there that Ashley is like the superhero of marketing for PIO. She's so busy doing a bunch of things for us. I think she's going to be writing some articles for one of the fire service magazines. And I think it would be beneficial if there were other organizations that had that type of ability to send information out, that we could tap into that as well, as to put it out there in their material, so that it does get out to the masses.
Great, thank you, Mike. And I think we'll at PIO Toolkit will be doing a lot of work around the raising awareness of it, because we obviously attend a lot of conferences as well. So I think it's a continued effort, and also word of mouth. So if anyone knows of people that know of people that could help us do this, then of course do get in touch with any of us. Every little bit helps for sure. So I have a question around, bear with me, sorry, it's more of a practical one that Jody was asking around Jody was being asked if they can be electronically signed by the person, or do you have to print out?
He's talking about the letter, the 3 letters of recommendation. I'm pretty certain that's what he's talking about. Okay. We are in the process of fully automating our application process. But Mike, I'll let you answer that one. He's asking if the letters of recommendation can be signed electronically.
Yes, they can. Short answer, yes. It's just, we need to make sure that when it is electronically signed, that it has the date and the time, that type of electronic signature. So yeah, that's fine. And it can be a copy. It doesn't have to be an original. All of our applications, when they're downloaded, are in PDF format anyway. So, that electronic signature is going to be fine.
That's great. Thank you. I would like to talk a bit more about if you're not currently eligible, in terms of career progression, why should you get started now? Because you can actually go ahead and download the application, can't you? So do you want to explain, why you can still go ahead and do it, even if you're not eligible?
I'd like to take that if you don't mind.
Yep.
I do that in my own organization. We have the fire officer designation, which is one of the other designations offered through the CPSC. And when I promote a new officer, or even some officers seeking promotion, it's just part of our natural professional development process to get them to download the application, because inherently we gravitate toward those specific topics or subject matters within our area of expertise that we enjoy, that we like, whether that's for the fire service from that perspective, whether it's hazardous materials, whether it's public education, or what it is. And in that process, we tend to neglect some of the other things that make us a well-rounded individual. So the reason that I have my folks download that application very early on, even though I know they won't qualify for some time, is to look at those technical competencies, start documenting their training and experience, and identify those areas where they're short. And then as they move forward over the next 1 to 3 years, whether it's through online training, local training, national conferences, whatever it is, they can target those subject matters throughout those various delivery methods to help fill those voids. So really, in addition to being a credentialing application, it's also a professional development framework and plan that you can begin to identify those areas. One common area that we find among young fire officers, there's a human resources component. They just haven't been exposed to that very often. But you look, for instance, at FDIC or Fire Rescue International conferences, they have a human resources track. So that helps them identify, yeah, I really need to bolster myself in this area. So for us, it's a development framework as much as a credentialing application.
And I'm going to oversimplify that, Chief, because I stole this from this the Excellence Conference in February. One of our CPC commissioners, Grant Tinker, said, don't think of it as just an app. You can also think of it as a map. So I'm going to forever use that. It is, like you said, like a developmental roadmap.
Yeah, absolutely. And the thing that I like about that is I've had many a moment where I've sat there and thought, well, I know I did it, but I haven't got the evidence. Where's the evidence? And you spend all night and day trying to fill in the last few gaps. You know, if only I had saved that press release, or anything like that. So I think it's almost like a challenge to get this in front of you, because you can say, well, I'm going to get that, and if you be surprised at how easy it is once you think about it to get the opportunities, because you may look at it in the first instance and be like, well, that wouldn't happen in my job, or how am I going to get that ticked off? It's just to me, it's a checklist that you just work through, get creative about how you need to seek out those opportunities, and really use it as, like you say, Chief, as a framework. And also, what is wonderful is that you can look back and go, actually, I am more accomplished than I thought I was. Mm-hmm. I think PIOs suffer a little from not thinking they know what they're doing. There's a lot of imposter syndrome that I've experienced amongst PIOs. And so when you have it there in black and white in front of you, it gives you that confidence to apply for jobs that maybe you wouldn't have done so before. So coming from a policing background, evidence is everything. If it wasn't written down, it didn't happen. So get writing is what I'll say to that. So we have a question from Aaron. I'm not sure who would be best to answer this, but how did you settle on the cost for this?
Settle on the cost. I'll answer that question.
Thanks, Mike.
So just recently, as of April 1st, the cost went up $20. It was $375. That's the first time that any of our designations for new have went up in almost 20 years. So it's been the same cost for, I think it's been 18 years. And so I went through, and our commission asked me to do okay, what's the comparison of what the cost would be for today? And so I did that analysis, went through, online and put the numbers in, and really the application, if we did it in today's dollars, based off of what it was back then, it should be about $800 or $900. But if you do think about it, the $395 because the designation is good for 3 years. And so it's roughly about 38 to 39 cents a day. If you think about it, you kind of break it down into smaller terms. Our redesignation fee hasn't changed. It's still $325. So every 3 years you pay $325 to renew, fill out a renewal application. But that initial price was before I came in, and it was the same fee whenever I received my designation, my first one back in 2007. So
that's great. Thank you.
So that's where it's at. There's really no, I guess, scientific method on why it was done that way, but it is probably the most inexpensive designation or credential you can get, more than likely.
When you consider the benefits of it, it's actually
yes,
a small investment for a massive return in terms of career progression, I would say. So what I want to know about, because I've been in this world for 20 some years, what advice would you give to someone who's like, well, I don't really need it. Shouldn't I just fill out a resume and just give them that? What would you tell someone like me who's been around a bit to convince me to do it?
Ashley, you want to take that?
So I will just say, from personal experience, a resume a resume is not all inclusive. And really you want to keep your resume, you're always told 1 or 2 pages. I don't know if that's still the norm, but back when I was in college, that's what they would say. But I think this gives an opportunity to highlight, you can put anything on paper, basically, yourself. But if you have this third-party verification of everything that you've done in your PIO career up to this point, your professional contributions, your professional affiliations, your certifications, your training, your experience, all of these things, that really speaks to, I'm not just talking about myself here. Somebody else up here in the field, validated that everything that I have just told you is correct, is true. And so I think, again, like anybody can put anything on a resume. And I mean, I guess technically anybody could put anything on, their application as well, but there is going to be that peer review. It's going to be looked at heavily. It's not just going to be taken at face value.
Yeah, that's a really good point, Ashley, actually, because I mean, it's unlikely, although I do see some lovely jobs out there occasionally at airports, but it's unlikely that I would actually become a PIO again. However, it also lends credence to things like speakers and trainers. I have to prove my worth and my value and my experience to be able to speak and give training nationally and internationally. So to have this is almost like a shortcut to say, yep, she's legit, she knows what she's talking about, is incredibly powerful. So I am still going to do it. I think it's not just career and getting a job. There's so much here as well. If you want to be a lecturer, for example, in comms, I think this is an excellent way to prove that you know your stuff. So Rhonda asks a question around application coaching, and is it available? Would someone like to speak to that for me?
Yeah, I will. Sure. Yeah, we have a cadre of peer reviewers. There's probably, as far as PIO peer reviewers, maybe a dozen. And all you have to do is ask me, hey, look, is there someone that can help me through this process? Because when you download the application and you open it up, you go, oh my gosh, this is a lot. I really don't know what I need. Where do I start? How do I make sure I put the right information in and it goes through without much input from the peer reviewers? You would like to have a phone call from the peer reviewer saying, hey, your application is awesome. It's really great. I don't have any questions. But you may get some to just say, hey, well, they may ask you something about your designee goals on why you wrote something. But Yeah, we offer mentors. It doesn't cost anything, and these folks are volunteers. They don't get paid, and they'll work with you however long that the peer reviewer sets up a time frame. Says, look, we'll work on this application. We'll go through it. Most of them will stick with you until you submit your application, and a lot of times the individual that's mentoring you will probably do your peer review as well. That's because they went through your application, they know what it is, and they know it's right. So when you go through it, usually doesn't have to be handed off to anyone else. That one person will probably, or two people will do your peer review as well. So, man, you get a lot of feedback from those individuals because they've been designated and they know what the process is like.
Thank you,
And
Mike.
I'll just tack onto that real quick, Christine. If I'm willing also to help anybody, if you haven't gone all the way through the process yet to get to that peer review point, and you just have some basic questions or anything like that, Christine can share my contact information, and I'm willing to help answer some of those basic questions too.
And I'll probably get in trouble for mentioning this, but Ashley and I have spoken very casually about mentoring, or me at PIO Toolkit setting up a mentoring program unrelated to this, but kind of related as well, so that there is going to be support somehow. I don't quite know what it looks like yet, but there are people there who will definitely be available to support anyone through this. So sorry, Ashley, I've just dropped you in it there, but
no, it's okay. Well, and when you go on the website too, you can see the current list of designated PIOs is there. I encourage you, if there's one in your area, because it also lists where the person is from, what area. I would encourage you to try to maybe seek out that person, because you should probably be knowing them anyway, because they're they're close to you, but also they can help you walk through the process.
Great, thank you, Ashley. If we've got any more questions, put them in there. But what I would like to do, we'll probably wrap up soon. I don't want to keep people for the sake of keeping them, but perhaps each one of you could just give us a summary of, what it is that, why should, I know we kind of touched on it really, but what is it that gets you going about being involved in this? Have you enjoyed the process? Because it's been tough. There's been a lot to do, but perhaps Brian, if you want to give us your kind of impassioned explanation, if you can, as a firefighter, obviously.
Sure. One of the areas that everybody that I encounter within my industry is looking for is career pipelines, career pathways, career roadmaps. What can I do to achieve the next level? What can I do to improve myself? Is there some sort of plan? And when we adopted this as our fire department's professional development framework, and we did the same thing statewide through the Tennessee Fire Chiefs as well, when I was the commissioner of the Accreditation and Credentialing Consortium, was again what Ashley referred to as not reinventing the wheel. This is not only a structured method, but it is an internationally recognized and accepted and proven credible structured method. So why would I go back and try to develop something different than what's already been demonstrated as being credible and professional? So anything I can do to give my people something solid for them to look at and say, what do I need to do to make myself a more well-rounded individual, no matter what your area of expertise is, whether it's as a fire marshal or a PIO or whatever it happens to be. Anytime I can do that with something that exists and I don't have to go back and to create something, that for me is a win-win for everybody. So I'm enthused. We have the largest number of designated officers at various levels in the state of Tennessee. I take great pride in that. My city manager, my city commission takes great pride in that. So you're not just demonstrating it to yourselves or potential employees, but you're demonstrating that to your peers, your community, your supervisors, and everyone else you may encounter and may report to or work under, that you have accomplished the highest level of demonstrating your competency that really exists in our industry, and continue to do so, like Mike said, every 3 years with that renewal. So you're always encouraged to pursue that next level, that next opportunity.
Thank you, Chief Goss, and thank you for everything you've done and showing up today and helping us understand this a little more, and hopefully that's encouraging people to get on with it. Mike, do you have anything you'd like to add to it that we've said?
Well, just, either my contact information is, you can put it in the chat or whenever it comes out. Anyone willing to or wanting to reach out to me, I'm more than willing to talk to you or email back and forth, whichever the individual is most comfortable with. I answer questions daily about credentialing. So I really, back in the day when I was a firefighter and a chief and a deputy chief in a department, it was one of those things that I wanted to try to do to see where I was at in my career. I ended up getting 3 designations based off of the experiences that I had. One of the jobs that I wouldn't want to do was PIO. I don't think I could do that job. It's a tough one. It takes special individuals to do that job. And I think, the designation is important, and it's beneficial for those individuals when they're standing in front of a crowd of individuals, and knowing that they have the competence and the knowledge and the abilities that's been verified and validated by other individuals in their profession, showing that just says, okay, look, this individual is squared away and they know what they're talking about. So the designation is really, I think, important for PIOs, just on the aspect of the credibility part.
Absolutely. Well, thank you, Mike. Absolutely, I couldn't agree more. The work that goes into being a PO is just often completely misunderstood and not given the credit it deserves. So this will contribute to sort of making people aware of how tough it really can be. So thank you for mentioning that. Ashley, do you have any final words of wisdom for us all?
I don't know if these are wise words because they're coming from my mouth, but what I can tell you is, oftentimes there's a misconception that a public information officer is simply a spokesperson or the voice of an agency. It is so much more than that. As you mentioned, Christine, there is a lot of hard work and training that goes into this. And, oftentimes we're not the ones on the camera. We're prepping other people to be on camera. We are social media administrators. We are community relations professionals. There's so much that goes into being a public information officer that just simply people don't have an understanding of. And, really PIOs are some of the hardest working individuals. This gives us an opportunity to put that on paper, but not that we're tooting our own horn. Somebody else is, verifying that the work that we've done, that it's accurate and it's, it is like, I would rather somebody else tell you how great I am than for me to tell you how great I am, because it just simply, number one, sounds a lot better. And it's humbling. It's very humbling to see all that you've accomplished there on that paper and have somebody to verify that, and then be able to take that out to, like Chief Goss said, your community, your leadership, all of those things. It's just very meaningful. And again, the reason why we started this in the beginning was to, yes, bring that value to our agency heads, to show them the hard work that we do put into being the best PIO we can be for them. But also it gives us that intrinsic value that we could sort of, silently pat ourselves on the back a little bit, because we have gone through all of this and we have accomplished this, and now we have something to show for it.
Absolutely. I couldn't agree more. And I could talk about it forever, as we know. However, I think we'll wrap it up there, because we've covered a lot. And as I mentioned at the beginning, for those of you who weren't here right from the start, we will be putting a recording of this on the PIO Toolkit website. We'll make sure that all the questions that have been asked will also be put on the website for you. And as we have more that come in, we will update that page as a kind of hub really for everything to do with this. And then watch the page and our LinkedIn updates about any future webinars. We may well be sort of focusing in on the technical step-by-step process of it, but we'll look for feedback and see what we feel will be most beneficial to everyone in the future. So again, thank you, Mike, Ashley, Chief Goss. I really appreciate you putting all the work into this, and we will leave it there for now. So thanks everyone for showing up, taking an interest in this, and drop us a line anytime. Thank you.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you, Christine.
Thank you.
Thank you.